What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ro Lamb Live. My name is Ro Lamb. I am your host. And today I am joined by my good friend, my good homie, Elisha Lawson. Elisha, how you feeling today, man?
I'm feeling great, bro. I love talking to you, man. We
Absolutely.
always be wrapping it up. So, I'm feeling good.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk to Elisha about his work as an actor, his life, and just what keeps him inspired, right? What creativity looks like for him. But before we do that, I always love to talk about what's been inspiring us from this past week. So Elisha, what's been inspiring you? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What's getting that creativity going for you right now?
I love it. That's one of my favorite questions to ask. Several things. Well, let me say a couple of things. The first thing is, I don't want to say like me, but I did a 30-day challenge for myself.
Let's
And that
go.
30-day challenge was for me every day for 30 days to do 200 push-ups, 200 squats, and 100. I started off with 100 pull-ups, and then I had to go to 50 because I was like, this is crazy, and 50 pull-ups.
Yeah.
That was inspiring me because the reason I did it, and I put it on social media, Instagram specifically, on my stories, because I wanted to
Which
get
is lovely, by the way. It was lovely.
Thank you, sir. It was a little comedy for some people too, especially starting
Sure.
off. I have fun with it, but it inspired me because the whole point of me doing it was to bring back discipline. I found myself being very unmotivated, uninspired, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna challenge myself, but this time I'm gonna put it live on Instagram on the stories, and I did it, and that was one thing that really inspired me because it did three things for me. One, it helped me to be more disciplined in other areas of my life. So
Yeah.
it bled over, right?
Yeah.
I was starting to be more disciplined in other things naturally because I was disciplined in that. And then two, it showed me the importance of rest days. I used the Mondays as my rest days. And when I tell you that I committed to that rest day, like I didn't do anything. There were
Right.
times I didn't want to pick up the phone, bro. Like I just laid on the couch.
That's
I
why you wasn't answering my calls, bro. That's why you
That's
wasn't
why
answering
that's
my
why I was
calls.
answering calls. Yes. I mean, hey, listen, I'm here. I'm caught red-handed. Like that's the reason why it wasn't. But yeah, I really took advantage of that rest day. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go full throttle on
Yeah.
this rest day and just not do anything. So, and then three, I'd say accountability. Me putting it on Instagram, it really held me accountable. Like for real, like when I didn't want to do those pull-ups and I had some left the night before, I would
Yeah.
think about, I can't lie to them. I can't lie to these people who are following me. I got to do it. So
Right.
that inspired me, man. And Christopher Nolan
Let's go. Let's go.
inspiring me, bro. And I know because you be putting some dope stuff on your stories on Christmas. I'm like, that's fire, bro.
For
And
sure.
when I put some stuff on, you hit the fire emoji, bro. Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's
You know I
inspiring.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy, man. He's otherworldly. He's different.
Yeah.
He's
I
different.
agree. I agree. I agree. What's been inspiring me has been, I don't know, I'm still reading. So last week I said what was inspiring me was the reading that I was doing. I've been reading outside of my usual genre, which is I usually read a lot of sci-fi fantasy, but now I've been reading more literary fiction. And in this literary fiction, there's still some of these sci-fi fantasy feels to it, but it's really cool seeing people do things differently than I'm used to. So that's one thing that's been inspiring me. And I think this sounds weird, but just life itself has just been inspiring me. Like getting up and just, watching my family and seeing other families and encountering new people. Today I went to this, it was like a mixer, like a table read for a writer who wrote, a pilot. And so I encountered all these new people, these new artists and cinematographers and producers and directors, just all these new people. And it was difficult because I'm not very good around new people. But it was inspiring also just to see so many people in the same room chasing their dream, you know what I'm saying? And coming together around a common desire to bring something, a new idea into the world, manifest something new into the world. So that just being around new people and taking in more life has just been really inspiring for me the last week. So that's what I would say is inspiring me. Do you have anything else that's inspiring you right now?
That just inspired me, bro. Like seriously, I love that life is inspiring you, bro.
Yeah.
That's good. That means, because to me, what I took from that is you're taking your time to take it all in. One thing that I would tell people that I would tell my younger self is to slow down. And even now, I find myself just speeding through life. Like, okay, what's next? Next project. But hearing you say that, bro, is like, that's a reminder. You got to slow down.
Yeah.
You got to look what's around you. That inspires, right? Because I feel, I guarantee, bro, you about to come up with something fire right out of all this, meeting these new people, meeting other people who are passionate about what they do. So that's inspiring, bro, for real. I love that you said that in, man.
Bro, this is why I have Elisha around me, because he's always gonna big me up. He's always gonna be like, "Yo, that was good."
I mean it, bro.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, bro. So the first thing that I would like for you to do is I would like for you to introduce yourself, right? How do you introduce yourself to people when you walk into a room and you pitching yourself?
I'm pitching myself. Man, this is good. It reminds me of my business class when I was in school. Let's see. I don't even know if I remember it. But anyways, I am Elisha Lawson, born and raised in Heidelberg, Germany. I'm a military brat, but I have God-given creative ability. So I have, how do I say this? Creativity that's boxed in by discipline. Discipline and obedience. Is that the good way to say it? Because most military brats go the way of the military, which is nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But I decided to go the creative route, me and my younger brother. And that's because of my parents. But anyways, it's always interesting when they ask you about yourself, because you're like, what all do I see in there? But yeah, so I'm Elisha Lawson, born and raised in Heidelberg, Germany. Military background, family, Army branch. And I started to like acting in middle school because I was the first Black Santa Claus in the play Santa Has the Blues in 6th grade. And ever since I did that show, I knew that I wanted to act for a living. And then I decided to study it. College is where I fell in love with it. And outside of college is when I married it, to be exact. Then I started really understanding the craft, and it became my life. And now I'm in New York, continuously living out the life of a professional actor. Although Hollywood is closed right now, I'm still finding ways to do what I love to do. Yeah. I don't really think that was a good, definitely was an elevator pitch, because the elevator already stopped at the floor that we were supposed to get off on. My opportunity. So I got to work on that, y'all. Forgive me, I'm a little rusty.
It'll come.
Normally, when I say I'm born and raised in Germany, everything stops right there. Like, wait a minute, talk about that. So
right.
I usually get away with that, and then I'll be like, oh, cool, I'm building a relationship just off of me being born overseas.
Right. So let me ask you this, and I'm excited about this conversation because I feel like you and I don't get to talk about. I feel like when you and I usually talk, we're talking about writing, but I really want to hear about you and your acting. And the first question that I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned you fell in love with acting when you were the first Black Santa Claus. What was the thing that really drew you? Was that the thing that drew you to acting, or what was it something else that really pulled you into this art and this craft?
So, great question. I liked acting when I played the first Black Santa Claus, but I didn't know the craft, right? Like, I was just like, oh, I like being up there and, saying these lines and acting like Santa Claus and people loving it and clapping, right? It was the spectacle side that I loved of it. But obviously I love the make-believe. But once I got to college and I started to learn the craft of it, like for lack of better words, the magic of it, I really I was like, yo, I love this because what I like is detective things, anything detective. I grew up that way because my dad loved detective stuff. So I took that on. So anything detective wise, as an actor, what I was taught is you're a detective. When you get a script, you have to find those clues for your character, for the story, how you fit in there, like, so that immediately drew me in. I was like, whoa, this is a dope lens to look at acting through. So I fell in love with it once I figured the craft of it and how to immerse yourself in a character and become that character and how to operate in the world that the character lives in. So yeah, I think I would say the craft is the thing that made me fall in love with it and be like, yo, I want this. And Denzel Washington.
Okay.
I remember my parents having a lot of church members over and they were watching Glory. And I was upstairs, we're all playing with the kids. I was one of the kids playing with them. I came down real quick to talk to my parents and they're watching it. And it was I kid you not, it was at the scene where Denzel is about to get, where he gets whipped and that one tear that he's known for. I kid you not. And I'm sitting there and I was caught. I was captivated by it. And I just watched it. From then on, I watched the rest of the movie. I was like, yo, I was like, Pops, who is this guy? He was like, man, that's Denzel Washington. You don't know about him? And he kind of was like, man, I ain't doing a good job. You need to know about this guy. And ever since then, I was like, I want to do stuff like he's doing. So that helped really propel it.
So what was it like? Because I do want to hear about Germany as well.
Yeah.
What was it like pursuing being an actor in Germany, like growing up in Heidelberg, Germany, and wanting to be an actor? What was that process like?
Man, so after middle school, after I did that, I really liked it a lot. But here's the funny thing. I've never done drama class from middle school. Well, middle school, we had that creative class. Everybody took it. But when I got to high school, I didn't take drama class. Like, I enjoyed doing plays, and most of the plays I did was at church. So that was my stage, was my parents' church. So that's where I did all my plays. It wasn't until I was a junior that I actually auditioned for a play. And I don't know how I decided to do it, but I guess I was like, yo, I want to get on the stage again here at the school and audition for The Importance of Being Earnest. Didn't know anything about the play or whatever, but I did. And I became the priest in it. And then after that, I would just audition for every single play after that. And that was my acting in Germany. I never got to, it was church stage, and then my junior year, senior year was school stage. And then after that, that's when I just headed straight to the States and pursued acting even more in university.
Gotcha. So what's been the hardest part? What's been the hardest part of your acting journey?
I'd say man, it's a great question, bro. Because there's several things, and I don't just want to pick one, because I know there's one that I'm like, yeah, this is the hardest part.
You could give us 3. You could give us 2 or 3.
You know. 3? Well, I'd say I'm a family guy. And so, like, my parents, like, I came to the States to pursue it. And my parents, Germany is their home. So a lot of times that's the hardest part, is like, they're my motivation. Like, I feel like I can fly after I talk to them. But just, I don't know, I've been feeling it the older I get. I feel like that's been one of the hardest things. Second, I'd say doing projects I don't like. I don't take on those projects. There are projects that come across my table and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And people are like, that's blasphemy. Some schools will say you do everything you get. I don't, and especially the older I get, I don't want to do certain projects. Like, this doesn't speak to me. I don't want to do it. And if you got me younger, I would have been like, yeah, give me that. Give me everything. But there's things I'll be like, man, I'm not intrigued by this. Or this is the same project I've done before. I would say those 2 things. Maybe something will come up. But that's a great question, bro. I never really sat down to be like, what's the hardest thing? But I would say those 2, because that's what I'm dealing with right now.
I think that question is probably difficult for you because you're very optimistic. You're very positive. You're very, I feel like you can sort of gloss over some of those challenges, right? Like, so things may be challenging, and I think you recognize the challenge, but because of the way you view it, it's just like, this is just the journey, and you just keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? And so I think when I thought to ask the question, I thought he's probably not gonna know immediately. He's probably gonna have to think about it, but I just want to put it on the table and see, what you said. You know what I mean?
Bro, you nailed that. Ladies and gentlemen, this man truly knows you. These are our discussions. You nailed that, because that's exactly how I felt. I was like,
yeah,
I don't look at it like that. A lot of stuff like that. So
for sure, for sure. But the reason why I asked that question though is because I do think it's important I like to hear people's struggle and their challenge, because out of their challenge and their struggle, you can learn something about how to overcome your own challenge, your own struggle. You know what I mean? And so that's why I asked that question. You know what I mean? And so you said you came to the States from Germany to pursue acting, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I know, you just said, talking to your parents is an amazing feeling for you. Can you talk a little bit about what their support has been like, from knowing from the beginning that you wanted to be an actor to now? Like, how have they shown that support for you?
Oh man, they're a strong, solid foundation for me. I'd say for me, that's more than half of the battle in being an actor. Wow. To me, is the support, because most actors don't get the support, especially from their mother and father, their parents, their family, right? Yeah. They always see it as a pipe dream. We've heard that before. But my parents, listen, first of all, I always tell my parents, it's your fault that I'm doing this, because both of them are very talented and I get my talents from them. Like, I also dance as well. But both of them come from an arts background. They didn't have the opportunities to do it, but I get it from them. So there's that. But they are the most supporting. I think my optimism comes from them. Mm-hmm. What they rooted me in and trained me in. Like, both of my parents are pastors, and a lot of the teachings they gave me is principles from the Bible. Like, regardless of whoever believes whatever, it's just they give me those principles and they're practical. And I lean so heavy on them that when I go through situations, my whole the lens where I look at it is like, oh, this is opportunity to practice the principles that I've learned from my parents. So that, and them just like constantly like, what are you doing? Man, whenever I'm doing something, we're coming to see it. My parents fly over from Germany to see my shows.
Wow.
Every show they've come to see it when it was, plays. And obviously they watch it on TV when I'm on TV, but they're my number one supporters, hands down. Like, and that's why every time I talk to them, they make me feel I can fly, bro. Cause they like, you got it. And my dad always says this saying, it's not if, but when. And that's gonna be the title of my first book, by the way. Side note, I've been working on it, but
let's go.
Yeah. That's gonna be the title of my first book. But yeah, bro, at this point in my life, it's not, am I gonna? No, I know I am. It's just, okay, how is it gonna happen? This is gonna happen. So that's a product of my parents. So just to show you, I'm a product showing you of their support. My optimism. It's because of them.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So now I want to talk a little bit about the acting process. And I wonder if you could sort of put into almost like a step-by-step tutorial, if you will, of what I don't even know if you can actually share this with you. You might want to keep this secret, but what is your process for preparation like when you get a role, right? So they call you, they say, boom, you got the role, right? The script comes in. Like, what does that preparation look like for you?
Okay. So, and once again, as acting people go and they learn from different teachers, this is what I've been taught. And the teachings that I've received, I molded it into my own process. So first, even before I get the script before I even do the audition, I research, if I can, the writer and the director. I just do that. I just want to see who's on the project. And some people are like, oh, don't do that. But my teacher taught me, research them, especially if it's a play, to see their style of writing, especially for the writer. and then director to see their style. I mean, with every director is different because with the project you get, but specifically for writers, see how they write. Everybody writes differently, right? After that, I get the script. I read it 4 times. I read it as an audience member, right? Just read it, how I write. And then after I read it, I write how it affected me as an audience member, right? I write emotionally, everything, how it affected me from what my thoughts were about the characters and all that. Second, when I read it with my character in mind. Then I read it from the point of the other character's point of view of me as my character. Then the 4th time I read it, I read it straight through slowly and meticulously to find that's the 4th time. Well, the 4th time I read it is when I start to go through and scribble. And when I read it the 4th time, I'm looking for polar, which is polar. So how I was taught is this thing called polar, meaning what is everything I know as my character before the curtain comes up or before the movie starts? What are all the things I'm coming into this world with? Like, let's say I start off and I come in a door of a house. What are all the things my character knows about himself? That I haven't discovered yet as I go along. So I have to go through the script and find all those things, and I highlight them in a specific color, like say greens for that. So I highlight all that in green, right? The next thing I look for is my attributes, who I am. What are characteristics that I do? Like one thing is like he twitched, or he knocked this over, he threw that over. Okay, my character must have an anger problem. Or either he hates lamps because he's knocking over the lamp like 3 times. So I write that down in attributes, right? Then I write relationships. Who were certain people to me? And then the 4th is something else, which, actions in the scene. Like, so blocking wise, like so-and-so walks through the door and he picks this up. So I know that for myself. So I go through with each one and I color code them. And now I have the list of those, right? And out of that, I start to form who this character is, especially within this world. So that's pretty much a simple process that I have. But of course, within it is very detailed. A lot of scribbling, a lot of writing, a lot of detective work, a lot of pages, a lot of speaking out loud, doing mini improvs. But that's the overview. That's my structure of how I attacked a script.
And excuse me, all of that sounds so, I guess, technical, if you will. What I'm wondering is, how do you balance that, the technical things, the technique of acting, with the creative, free flowing side of acting? Does that make sense?
Right. It makes total sense. Yeah. So that's the fun part, right? And that's the part why we do all the technical up front. At least I do all the technical up front, because the reason for the technical is so I can understand what the story is about. When you know what the story is about, you don't fake the funk. And when you don't fake it, when you believe it, the audience believes it. So the technical is for you to know what is actually happening in this story. What am I doing? Once you get that down, then really, like for plays, the creative comes in the rehearsal where you play. That's where you just work off the other actor. But that's a privilege in theater. Like for film, you rarely get rehearsal time. Like you're just thrown in it, right? So to answer your question, the creative comes in. Once I understand what the script is, I play. Like now I'm figuring out this character's tics. Based off of the information I get from the technical, I may go out and live out the character. You know, some people call that method acting, but it could be a method acting, but I don't necessarily act like the character the whole day. I may go to a bench and like sit on the bench. How does he sit? Like, how does he talk? Like, or play or research other people that are closer to this character. How do I take on their attributes? I feel like that's where the creative comes in. But really, bro, I feel like, and I may be wrong, the creative starts to form naturally when you do the detailed work up front, right? Because you're starting to understand the story. So naturally, you're starting to become the character if you've done your work right. So really, you don't have to push for the creative. It starts to show up. You find new things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it makes sense because even as I think about the way you describe your process for preparation, I would imagine a lot of that has a lot of experimentation in there anyway, right? So you're, well, I'm gonna play it like this. No, that's not gonna work because I want it to feel more like this, and then you try this, right?
Right.
It's almost like in writing, you write the first draft, you write your second draft, right? So you're just putting down drafts and you're going back and you're saying, nah, I don't want it to feel that way. And you're constantly making tweaks and adjustments to get to this final product that is, this is what I was going for. Does that sort of sound?
Yeah. No, you're completely right. You're trying, you're seeing what works.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And a lot of times it's easier to do that because you don't want to form your character. Like you don't, meaning you don't want to be like, my character is going to say it like this, or he's definitely going to do it like this. That's what you try to steer away from.
Right.
So that's why rehearsals are cool, because you can play and new things come up because you're focusing on the other actor, not yourself. The other actor is going to bring these things out of you. Now, there may be things where, oh, I have to go and pick this up, I have to pick that up and all of that. But normally you can try the things when you're rehearsing with someone else, because you don't want to map everything out. I'm going to say it like this with this inflection and that, because then it becomes too rigid.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think this reminds me of Eric, Eric Thomas. You know Eric Thomas?
Yeah.
He said something one time, and he was talking about practice. And he was talking about how, like, when you're in the game, you get one time to do it. You have a game and you got one time to get the play right. But in practice, I can do this over and over and over again. You know what I'm saying? Like in the game, you got a set amount of time. You got basketball, you got what? 48 minutes. And then that's all you got. Once that horn sounds, it's over with. But in practice, I could be in the gym as long as I need to be. And I can do it over and over and over again. So as you were talking, I was just thinking about that, because that's really the fun of, that's like the blue sky, where it's like anything is possible here. So you're just throwing stuff at the wall. You're trying it, and you're trying that, and you're doing this accent, and you're switching it up here, and you're trying that. It's like, none of this is right. And then as you're doing that, it's you're slowly chiseling away until you get to, this is what we're looking for. You know what I mean?
Sir. Yes, sir.
So what would you say if you had to name, let's say, 3 skills that you think every actor should have? What would those skills be?
Skills. I don't even know if this is a skill. Problem solving. That is a skill. Problem solving. Especially for a director. But as an actor, it's about making, I always say, the shift. Right. And the shift could be so nuanced. It could be so minute, but it'll change a whole performance. Being a problem solver. So that means, but that comes with repetition. That comes with constant working. And what I mean is, if you're bumping up against something, to be able to be an actor, to be like, okay, well, let me try this. In other words, attached to that, knowing how to make choices. That's what a director's looking for out of you. Can this actor make choices? First of all, can he follow direction? Which is another skill.
First of all,
can he follow direction? Because if you can't follow direction, my job's obsolete, because he ain't understanding what I'm saying, right? So I'd say a skill, follow direction, making choices, and problem solving, which all actually go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right. I'd say those are the skills, like practice, and that's in life in general, because to me, life reflects art and vice versa. If you're a problem solver, bro, like you'll be good in anything, because you're always thinking, okay, how can I fix this? Anything comes to you, you're like, okay, this is an opportunity. How do I fix this?
Right.
So as an actor, learn that skill.
So that's the one skill?
I'd say problem solving.
Okay. You have any more skills that you think every actor should know or do?
Yeah, I think, and this is more everyday thing you should be doing at least 4 times a week. Skills of voice warm-ups, body warm-up. Those 2. That's important, because this is your instrument. If you don't know how to warm this sucker up, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So learn that skill of how to actually warm your voice up, do voice warm-ups and body warm-ups.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, oh, sorry, someone went off. But yeah,
No,
and that's something you're supposed to be doing every single day.
yeah.
Every
Word.
single day. To stay ready. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. Stay ready. You don't have to get ready. So you touched on problem solving and how, as an actor, that's good to be an actor, but that's also great in life, right? You see a problem, you take opportunity, you solve it, right? I would like to hear you talk about what you've learned as an actor, in the business, in the industry, acting and doing that, and what lessons you have learned that have helped you in life.
Hmm.
It's so funny when you go to think, because I think the screen is frozen. And so
I can be so still. Every time I talk to somebody, they'll be like, "Are you good?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I was thinking." I can be so still. Side note, I'm very in tune with my body. Like, I'm a very physical actor, and that comes from dancing. So I can freeze, and sometimes
Yo,
people are like, "What the heck?"
you do this when I tell you ideas. I'm like, bro, I got this idea
Right.
for this story. And you're like,
You're like,
I'm like,
"Yeah."
oh, is it trash? And you're like, no, it's great. I'm just thinking about it. I'm like,
Right.
oh,
I'd be envisioning. I'm like, man, that's really good, but it's a little too intense.
I'm like, what's going on?
You're like, yo, you malfunction? What the heck? That's funny, bro. So my first job out of acting school, which I treated the school here in New York, School of Film and Television, was I was a professional improviser. And I could say the first thing I learned through that, which was a very scary experience, but I learned a lot. One of my teachers said, improv is like driving while looking in the rearview mirror. You can only take what has already been given to you. I know, let that sit. Driving while looking in the rearview mirror. So to know where you're going, you have to look at what you have already left or what you passed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I say one thing with that is to trust yourself and where you're going. And second thing, the number one rule of improv is yes and. So what I learned from that was not to completely tear down an idea, right? Because anything can come out of that idea, and that's improv. A person will say the craziest thing, but you have to go with it.
Yeah.
Oh no, a box of crackers fell in your head. I know, and it hurt.
Yeah.
I told you about putting those crackers in the attic. There's a hole up there. Like anything, but you go with it. So I learned, because I used to be a guy that's be like, when somebody give me an idea, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. No, like, okay, let's see, how can I build on that? And that's that problem solving. Like, how can I build on that? That's what I learned from improv. I'd say for acting, it's so crazy, like double entendre character. As I'm learning about character, I'm so good at breaking down these characters and stories. I'll be like, yo, why can't I do this for myself?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm very good at breaking these characters down in stories.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to get too philosophical, but it's like, yo.
No, let's go there. Let's go there.
What do I like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do I act when somebody talks to me like this character is confronting in this story?
Yeah.
And that's what when we watch movies, we go to see ourselves. We go to see these characters and see if we can find ourselves in it. And I asked myself, man, I was going over one character one time, and it was very close to home. So that made me gotta kind of get introspective. No, it just made me think about myself. I think that's, and I thought about, he was in this relationship, and I just thought about me. I was like, man, what would I have done in that situation? So it just really made me think about my character.
Yeah.
And is there integrity there?
Yeah.
Right. Because integrity comes with the word integrated. And so when you integrate, means everything is one. So if I one in every area of my life, am I the same person at this place, at that place, or this place, or that place? So that's the biggest thing for me, bro.
Yeah.
It just makes me look at myself. And in turn, that makes me perform this character well.
Yeah.
Because really, what I'm looking at in a character is the parallels between that character and my life, so I can
Yeah.
fit into that character. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Going back to the driving while looking in the rearview mirror, you mentioned like what you've learned from that is learning how to trust yourself, right?
yeah,
That's what you said, right?
yeah.
Can you give me an example or a time when you had to trust yourself?
Yes, I can. So this is funny because I said I had to trust myself. So one of the principles, I mean, I go back to my faith. And one of the reasons I can really do this is because I put a lot of my trust in God. However, I mean, and because I do that, I have to walk it out. So I'm still walking out me believing in God. So I think one of the moments where I really had to trust myself was man, I love talking to you.
This is great.
I had to trust that no matter what, I'm going to get, I want to say I'm going to get there, but it's like, what is there? No matter what, my career, my storytelling will be for a reason.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is that it will not be in a void. There will be a reason why I'm doing all of this.
Mm. Mm.
And that reason is not for me. I know it's for others. Because the older I get, the more I learn that my gift is not for me. It's to help others.
Mm.
How does that look? I don't know. That's where my trust is in him and me walking it out in God, right? So that's the biggest thing, bro, because I say that because I'm doing all these things. And there are times where my thought would be like, why are you doing this? Why are you stressing yourself out? Why are you going through this process of living like an actor? Sometimes you don't know where the money's going to come from. Sometimes you're sleeping on the couch. Sometimes this or that. But yet and still, God has seen me through. But even then, I know, man, there's a reason I'm doing this. And it's going to be big. It doesn't even have to be on a grand stage. But for me, at the end of the day, I'm going to be like, yo, that was it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm going to be like, man, that's big.
Yeah.
No matter if nobody else sees it. So that, hopefully I answered it. That's the biggest trust. And I know it now. There's no doubt. I'm firmly rooted. Like if somebody's asking me like, yo, are you happy doing this? Yes. Because it's gonna be big. Whatever it is, it's gonna be big. It's gonna help everybody. It's gonna help a lot of people. So
yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about how your faith plays into your acting career? Like how does that how is that played together? How do they go together for you?
So for me, the older I'm getting and the more I'm in my career, I don't, like I said before, just want to take any job. I don't. Like I want the job that speaks to me. And I think a lot of the work that speaks to me correlates with my faith. Because I liken me being, because I'm a Christian. So me being a Christian is my life. Me being a follower of Christ is my life. So I'm not saying, oh, I only want to do Christian films. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm looking for the principles that have helped me in my life that I know could help others. And if I see those principles in this character, in this project, I'm like, oh, this I can sink my teeth into. So to answer your question, it's the principles of my faith that I live by in my daily life, that I'm successful because of those principles. Even if I go through problems, those principles still guide me. So I look for those in the work. Right. And I think about Will Smith. Will Smith, the later he gets on, no matter what people say about him or think about his more recent projects, but he's looking for substance in his work.
Yeah.
And it's always something that correlates to what he strongly believes in. I've noticed that about him because he always talks about it. Even when he's talking about Django, the love wasn't in this one. The love, that's a principle of his that he lives by. So it's going to affect his career and what he chooses, You notice I was like,
Yeah, I was like, was that your Will Smith
That's
impersonation?
my slight subtle Will Smith. I didn't want to go all the way with it because it would have been bad. So I kind of
I can feel it though. He said the love, the
yeah,
love.
the love.
I
But
can feel it.
yeah. But hopefully that answered your question. It's affected my faith has affected my career or guided my career by the principles of my faith.
Yeah.
And helping me define, what is this saying? What is this talking about? I want to be a part of that. So
yeah. No, that's great.
Great question.
No, that's great, bro. I think I sort of lost my train of thought because there was something that I wanted to say about the principles. I was gonna say that you're being guided by the principles. So when you're looking at a role, you're not necessarily looking at, or maybe you are, but how much cursing is in the movie, or how much this is in the movie, how much that is. Are these pushing the principles that I can get behind? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Right. Yes, because I'm not looking at necessarily those minute things. Although those things pop up sometimes. It's like, okay, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I look at the overall picture. What are we telling here?
Right. Is it serving the story, or is we just doing it?
Right. And if the story is like in that direction, like, oh my gosh, this subject matter, like this right here is going to affect people, it supersedes all those little things, because inevitably it's getting to the point that we're trying to talk about, that we're trying to get across. Because a lot of those characters that I may play may be the person that needs to understand that they need to change, or that needs to understand that, hey, there's something greater beyond me that I need to change for, or that I need to be better for, right? So I can't just look at how he's cursing or how he's acting maybe in towards women. Now, sex is a different thing, right? Like, I personally try not to go to roles where it's sexual and explicit, meaning like, and that's just me. Once again, I'm not knocking anybody. Like, do what you do, right? But I know for me, I know these things live on. So I'm a little bit more meticulous, right? Like, okay, what does this call for? Okay, you need me to be what? How do I need to act? How do I need to do that? Because it's going to live on, right? And I got to ask myself, am I okay with this living on? Even though I'm acting and it's a story, it's still my body, still me who's in this film. So I just ask myself that, right? So those do play parts. However, I do look at the overall picture.
Yeah.
I look at the minute things. Some people might see that as big, but I look at those things as well as the overall arching story. So it's it's a play by play or a film by film situation, right? There's no black and white, definitely no black and white.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Now, this is sort of moving away from the acting, and this is more about creativity in general. But how do you define or think about creativity? What's your definition of creativity?
Man, that's a great question. I'd say my definition of creativity is now.
I love this. Say more, please. Say more.
So there's a saying I watched a documentary on creativity. And this saying sticks with me, that amateurs wait for inspiration to come, while professionals start and inspiration will follow. What I get out of that is creativity is what you immediately start. You don't say, oh, when this, or when I have. No. What do you have now? How do you feel now? Where are you at in your life now? You start.
Yeah.
That to me is the definition of creativity. Now. Whatever that is, it's now.
Yeah.
It's already started.
Yeah.
I was in acting school, and me and this other actor had an assignment. We had to create this play out of these. We're working on subtext. Acting is subtext. So you're not necessarily saying the line, you're saying what's underneath the line. So our teacher gave us A and B was the characters, and B would say, okay, come here. You really want that? Oh, I see that door. And we had to find the subtext. Well, him and I were butting our heads off. What is this story? What is this story with these lines?
Yeah.
And we just decided to, there's a saying she would always say, use it. Whatever you're going through, use it in your work. So we couldn't come up with a play. So we decided our story is about two guys who can't come up with a play. And it was a hit. She loved it.
Yeah.
And we put it in and fitted with the words. They came in, they were both running late, and they're trying to come up with this play on the fly. And we use those words. And that to me is an example of creativity, because we were creative by using what we had in that very moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, creativity is now.
Creativity is now. And you know that I asked that question last week. I actually think I might ask this question every week, because I love hearing. My guest last week said she doesn't define it. She said she can't define it. And we talked a little bit about that. And then you said it's now. And I love hearing these different definitions. My definition is, and I'm only saying it because it aligns with you talking about problem solving earlier, because I think that that's what creativity is. I think creativity from a practical standpoint is solving problems. It's problem solving. It's, okay, we have this piece of clay and we want this piece of clay to look like that. So now creativity is saying, this is how we're going to take this and make it look like that. Oh. And I think that there's something that's so solution oriented about creativity. And I think that's also why I like your definition of now, because there's something about the now that connects with being able to solve a problem, right? We're not waiting for somebody else to solve the problem. We're going to solve the problem, and we're going to do it. We're going to start now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which then goes back to the experimentation, because we're going to start now. That didn't work. Let's try something else. That didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's try this. Okay. That didn't work, but we think we found something. So we're going to try this again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I had I don't know these people, but they ran a Kickstarter for a comic book, and they failed their Kickstarter. They launched that joint the next day. They launched it, failed. The next day they relaunched that joint.
Whoa.
And succeeded.
Wow.
This right here, this is this. They saw what the mistakes were. They said, look, we're gonna do it again, and we're gonna switch it up, right? We're gonna switch about marketing, this, that, and the third. To me, that's getting creative, right? I think about Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs says, look, how can we get 1,000 songs in somebody's pocket? This is how we're gonna do it. He solved a problem.
Right.
So I just love hearing these different definitions. Let me ask you this. What is your relationship with creativity like right now?
It's not where I want it to be, but it's where I need it to be.
Whoa. Say more.
I saw a video on Instagram with Christopher Nolan, and Christopher Nolan said, which it hit me, he said, I started off with doing interview style videography for little companies, and he started off that way, and he was building skills and creativity that he didn't think he would build by doing that. And then it led to him going to film. But that's how we started off. It's funny because I came here for acting. During the pandemic, I started a second company of mine. And this company, I do interview style videography. I record it for these small businesses. I edit it myself. And a lot of times I direct it, right? That's not where I wanted to get into. Obviously, I'm an actor. I want that creativity to be in my acting.
Yeah.
But I realized doing this interview style talking head jobs actually gave me things that I needed that I carried over to my acting creativity.
Wow.
One of them, discipline, but organization. I lacked in organization, and that actually helps in my acting. Organizing my thoughts, organizing how I break down scripts. That was one of the many things, but also relational, networking. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a creativity that I needed to help with the creativity that I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I saw Christopher Nolan, that came up, I was like, oh, and I actually saved it. I was like, yo, I'm actually doing that right now. And obviously I love Christopher Nolan. So anything I can find that is similar, I'm like, cool, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I answered that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So my relationship with it was funny because now it's where I need it to be versus where I want it to be. That's my relationship with it.
Gotcha. That's lovely. So now I want to move into a segment that I feel like I'm gonna change the name. I just call it the one, but basically it's like these rapid fire questions. Most of them will just be like one. I'm gonna just ask the questions and we can go from there. All right.
Good boy. Okay.
What's one movie? I usually say book, but because you're an actor, I'm gonna do this. What's one movie you feel everyone should see?
Inception.
Okay.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, you haven't seen it? I find myself getting angry when somebody says Inception. So Inception.
At this mixer I was just at, somebody said they liked Christopher Nolan. I said, oh, have you seen The Prestige? And he said, no. And I said, what?
Right.
How have you not seen this movie?
You like him? No.
Incredible.
Incredible.
What's one word that you would want your legacy to be described as?
Resilient.
That's tough. What's one thing that you would change about your creative journey?
Not having facial hair. Enough facial hair. No, I'm joking. Dang, that's tough, man. Spending habits. I say spending habits.
You would change your spending habits?
Yeah, I would change that a little bit better. I could do a little bit better with that. I did some stupid stuff with my money. Not crazy, like I was blowing it, but I wasn't smart with it, financially literate. So I'd say
I can relate.
Okay, cool. Spending habits, especially as an artist, you gotta be smart with your money. So
yeah, I'm trying to tell you, bro. I can relate. I feel like you mentioned this earlier, but if you want to reiterate, you can do that. This doesn't have to be one word, but what's one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
Slow down.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Slow down, retain.
Yeah. Slow down and retain.
Slow down and retain.
And I did want to say that too, because you mentioned going back to the acting class where your teacher said, use what you're going through. And when I was saying like really, and life has been inspiring me. Like life really can fuel what we do as artists. And I just think that's so special because it can fuel it. And then we can take these pieces of life and concentrate them into this piece of art.
Right.
And then beam it into people's hearts.
Right. Man, beam it into people's hearts. I love that.
It's incredible.
I love that, bro.
What's one thing that you would want everyone that sees or hears this to know?
You don't have to do it on your own. There's a better way. And it's Jesus.
I knew he was gonna witness. I knew it. I knew it.
It's just I come from myself. It's true.
Hey, I love it. I
I'm
love it.
living
I love it. I love it. So yeah, are there anything that you want to plug? Down on the bottom, we have scrolling his Instagram handle, Elisha J. Lawson. We have his website, elishalawson.com. Is there anything that you want to plug, that you want to tell people about, that they should be looking out for? Any other links that you want them to go to? This is your place where you can, plug what you want them to know about.
Oh man. First of all, Ro, you the man. I love talking to you, and I love that this is whoever's watching this. This is what we do on a regular.
Yeah,
I need
for
y'all to
sure.
know this. This is not us putting. I really forgot that we were doing some live. I just every time I talk to Ro, y'all, every time I talk to you, bro,
Sure.
I get hype.
For
So no, the handle right there, everything you have on there, which is fire, is totally fine. Y'all can all find me there. Hit me up on Instagram. I'm dropping more content. But yeah, bro, I love the scrolling. That's dope.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, y'all can find me there. And then all my acting stuff that y'all want to see is on ElishaLawson.com. So all my acting reel is. I'm still uploading more projects that I've been on, so there'll be more coming. But yeah.
For sure. Well, Elisha, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I just want to say, bro, I appreciate you, man. I love you, bro. I appreciate your friendship. And like Elisha said, like, we have these conversations all the time, and I'm always asking him questions, picking his brain. And I just appreciate you, bro. I appreciate your spirit, your honesty, your authenticity. And I'm just excited to see where you go, bro. So with that being said, we've come to the end of another episode of the Ro Lamb Live Show. And with that, we are out of here. I love y'all.
Peace.